It sounds as though, based on multiple sources, that there is potentially this deal that could take Homeland Security funding out of this big spending bill. This was the sticking point, right? Democrats were like, we're not, after what you just heard from Camila, after the death of Alex Preddy on Saturday, Democrats were like, we're not voting for this. We're not giving ICE and Homeland Security more money. Sounds like maybe that's coming out of this big, huge package that was going to be voted on. And so that maybe is a chance that the government will not partially shut down tomorrow night. Sahil Kapur and Monica Alva, Hill, White House, respectively, are joining us now. So, Monica, I know we have new reactions from the president, but Sahil, let me start with you on what this deal actually is or what it looks like or how real it is.
That's right, Hallie. There is a deal on Capitol Hill. This was struck between the Senate and the White House, between leaders of both parties, as well as President Trump, who has just confirmed the deal. Here's what it would do. It would fund the entirety of government almost through September. So every agency that needs funding, it would fund that, except the Department of Homeland Security. That previous agreement, which is now, which Democrats now have decided to oppose, will be ripped out of that bill. And instead of that, there will be a 2-week stopgap bill to keep DHS running on autopilot while they hash out these various demands that Democrats have made in order to win their votes to fund the government. Various restraints, they're saying, on ICE and on Customs and Border Protection in order to change the way immigration operations are run in the wake of the killing of Alex Preddy in Minneapolis. So the hope now for the Senate is to be able to vote as early as tonight. That is always messy because it takes the support of all 100 senators, and everyone wants their amendments. Everyone wants certain procedural demands, that have to get resolved. So that's still a little bit TBD, but there's a good chance the Senate passes this tonight. Then it would have to go back to the House before it can go to Trump's desk. That's significant because the House is on recess, so it's likely that we will still have at least a temporary or a technical government shutdown until early next week, unless Speaker Johnson does a surprising thing and brings the House back suddenly to vote on it something like tomorrow, Hallie.
Yeah, although, sure, flights we know have been messy even earlier this week. Can I ask you, Sahil, and I'm looking at all this reporting too, so it basically punts DHS funding for 2 weeks. What is the expectation of what happens in those 2 weeks? In other words, at the end of those 2 weeks, is there not a chance that Congress could be right back where they are tonight?
There absolutely is a chance. There's certainly a chance that DHS could shut down at the end of those 2 weeks. The way Democrats see this is that they believe they had a good negotiating hand, that there was such a public outcry, there was so much outrage over what happened in Minneapolis that they felt validated in walking away from the previous deal. One Democrat told me that if Republicans do nothing for 2 weeks and don't agree on a deal, DHS would shut down and Democrats would have little incentive to reopen it without the guardrails they're demanding on ICE and CBP. So that's the dynamic for Democrats. As far as Republicans are concerned, they too noticed the outrage. They too felt the need to say something and accept that there should be changes in the way ICE and CBP operate. Hallie.
So hang tight for a second. I want to go to Monica because clearly word of this deal has made its way over to the White House and to President Trump, who in literally the last, I want to say 8 minutes, not even, has posted about it online. Here's that Truth Social post that the president put up, Mon.
So I think this was honestly kind of a coordinated rollout, Hallie, and it's something that the president hinted at some hours ago when we were on the air together, where he said, look, we are going to approach this in a very bipartisan way, and we want to try to do everything we can to avoid a shutdown. So he is writing tonight, essentially, that the only thing that can slow down the progress that he argues he's been able to make would be a massive and prolonged government shutdown. So he says that he is working with everybody to avoid that, to ensure that the government can be fully funded. But he is nodding to that structure and exactly what you just discussed with Sahil, which is he is going to allow for those 2 weeks for there to be negotiations about the specific DHS funding part of this spending measure. And the White House has been clear that on this conversation, they are open to some potential negotiations here. They are willing to give this breathing room for a couple of weeks. Again, will they be able to come to some kind of agreement or conclusion on that? I think the fact that you have the president heading into this indicating that the goal is shared by both parties, that there isn't going to be some massive and messy shutdown that looks anything like what we saw some months ago, is a pretty good indicator that tells you that he does want to see there be some kind of a pathway to this. And again, remember, it was Tom Homan on the ground just today, this morning. That's how we started this day in Minneapolis, saying that there are improvements that can be made. He talked about that constantly, and I think that that is something that Democrats certainly heard and want to hear more about. out. As for the actual tactics that might change on the ground, as for the actual commitments that DHS might make, that is what now is going to be a little bit tricky in this next portion. But the White House tonight says they feel optimistic, at least about the next steps. And again, the president saying he was very reluctant for there to be a massive showdown over this, and that is why he feels at least pleased tonight that they were able to come to some sort of agreement for now.
What's interesting here, and I know we only have a couple seconds left, and Sahil knows that we'll get granular in the days to come as we get these details about what some of these concessions are, what it looks like, et cetera. But one thing, Monica, that has been clear, there's been at least a couple of Republicans and a whole lot of Democrats on Sahil's end of Pennsylvania Avenue who say we don't want Secretary Kristi Noem in charge of the Department of Homeland Security anymore. But up until now, Mon, there's not an indication that the president, at least publicly, has backed away from her, perhaps. I mean, he said, the White House has said that he has faith in her. Sort of interesting, she didn't speak at that cabinet meeting today, although the president has also said those meetings are boring, so maybe we shouldn't read too much into that.
It was weird, though. I mean, I think we can definitely say that everybody in that room was watching and waiting to see whether Kristi Noem was going to speak today, and she didn't. The president didn't call on her. He didn't call on everybody around that table, but he did call on a good number of his cabinet officials, and so that was striking. And what was also notable is that he didn't take any questions today, either in that setting or in an event that he held a short time ago. So reporters wanted to press him on where his head is at when it comes to his DHS secretary. But yes, Hallie, just in the last few days, he has said that he thinks she's doing an excellent job when it comes to the border, and the White House maintains that she currently enjoys the full trust and confidence of the president. Hallie.
Monica Alba, Sahil Kapur. So I guess late night pizza is in order for both of you. Good luck. We'll check back in with you later on tonight to see if this thing gets signed, sealed, and delivered. Appreciate that.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.